Following a recess period in this case to allow a breakout session between defense counsel and the defendant, we resume proceedings in State versus Wendy Scott. Ms. Scott, Mr. Watts, Ms. Norris appearing as before. Mr. Watts, is there any announcement to be made at this time?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Thank you. We're ready to proceed to prelim.
Very well. Then the state may call their first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Brian Dunlap.
All right, you may begin your questioning now, Ms. Norris.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name for the record.
Brian Dunlap.
And Mr. Dunlap, you live in Butler County?
Yes.
And were you living there in July of this year?
Yes.
And do you recall July 20th of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you recall that day?
From the events that happened around 5 o'clock or so, I had a woman knock on my door, and when I answered, she was distraught. So I called 911 to get the police department there.
Okay. And did you know this woman?
No.
Okay. And was she, you said that she was distraught. Was she injured or?
Yes.
And explain to the court what sorts of injuries that you seen.
I believe it was on her left arm. She had some lacerations and was bleeding. And I did offer to help clean up the wound, and at that time she did not want it, want the wound cleaned up. She wanted the police department to see what happened.
Okay. And did she explain to you what happened to her?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And did you tell 911 what she had told you, or did you just call 911 and then they just sent somebody out?
When I called 911, I was interpreting what she was telling about her story to the 911 operator.
Okay. And just a brief synopsis, what did she tell you had happened to her?
She told me that there were two ladies that came to her apartment. One of the ladies was holding her stomach, saying she needed to go to the hospital. So Beverly gave them a ride, and then they were giving her directions. And at some point, she mentioned to them, "This is not the way to the hospital." And at that point, she said that they threw her out of the car and stole her car.
Okay. And were you able to figure out about how far away she was from? I mean, was this right by your house, or?
No, she had to walk at least a quarter to a half a mile to make it to my house. There's another house within eyeshot of my house, but it's probably 3 blocks or so. And there was nobody there. She went to that house first. And then she saw my house up on the hill, and she walked up to my house.
Okay. And did she identify herself at some point to you?
Yes. I mean, yeah, so I had to put my dog up. He doesn't let anybody come in the house. And so I put him up, and then when I came back, I would start asking her questions. And she told me her name, how old she was, and she was pretty distraught. She was definitely in shock when I talked to her.
Okay. And what did she tell you her name was?
Beverly Zuk.
And how old was she, or is she?
I think she said she was 85, 86.
Okay. And did you talk any further about what had happened with her?
Yeah. I mean, when the sheriff's department got there, she had to tell the story over again. And like I said, she was definitely in shock. So the story was kind of, I mean, she said the same things, but there were, how do I say it? There were instances, input that she didn't tell me in the beginning. Like, she had her daughter's dog with her and they somehow kept the dog. They threw her out of the car and then just took off with the dog. She was pretty distraught because she was a dog setting for her daughter. That was one of the things I remember. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I just want to know if there was anything else that you talked about what had happened to her, and anything else besides the dog that
Oh, I
stands
do.
out.
Yeah, she did say that one of the girls threatened that she had a gun. And at that point, I think that's when they kicked her out, said that she would kill her.
Okay. And this whole time, about how long do you think she was at your house, Miss
It
Zilke?
was over an hour.
Okay. And was she in the same state most of the time that she was at your house?
Yes, she was she was in shock. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned before shock, distraught. Was she crying, or did she?
Really, I mean, she's a strong woman from what I can remember, but the only time she really cried is when she was worried about her daughter's dog.
Okay. And did she have you call anyone for her besides? I mean, obviously you called 911.
No, because she didn't have her phone. They had her phone, so she didn't remember the numbers.
Oh, okay.
I do know that the sheriff's department called her or had her call her bank to shut off her credit cards because she was worried about them using her credit cards.
And when she came to you, did she have anything with her?
No, no, just the clothes on her back.
Thank you, Mr. Dunlap. I don't think that I have any further questions for you. Your Honor, although I may need to have him stick around for possible just identification. But otherwise, no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Watts, any questions for Mr. Dunlap?
Not for this witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Zilke, I'm going to administer an oath to you at this time, so I'm going to need you to raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Ms. Norris, you may question the witness. You can put your hand down, ma'am.
Ms. Zilke, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And please state your name for the record.
Beverly Zilke, Zielke.
And Ms. Zilke, in July of this year, where did you live?
Oh,
Where were you living when that happened?
oh God.
Okay. And do you recall an incident on July 20th?
What incident are you referring to?
Did you have to talk to law enforcement on July 20th about something that happened to you?
Yes.
And can you explain to the court what happened to you on July 20th?
Well, it's sort of a long story. Do you want to hear everything?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the girl that lives in the apartment complex called and asked if she could come down and look at a cookbook. And I said, well, yeah, that would be fine. And the other girl's name, I think, is it Elizabeth? Is it the small girl that lived in the same apartment complex? And so I thought she'd come. The doorbell rang, and it was the I didn't know her name, but I found out today it was Wendy. And she came, she said, "Is she here yet?" And I said, "No, she should be here anytime." It was shortly after the other girl came. And Wendy and I sat in the living room and just chit-chatted about small talk. And the other girl was in the room with the cookbook in a bedroom in the very back of my house where I have a bookcase. And finally she said, "She's taking a long time. I think I'll go back and see what she's doing." I said, "Oh, okay." And she went back there, and it was quite a while. And I thought, my lands, what's going on? So I got up, went down the hall, started to open the door, and it was locked. And I thought, huh. And I tried it again, and it unlocked. It was unlocked. So I went in, and the other girl was sitting on the floor looking through the cookbook, and Wendy was standing there just kind of watching her. And she finally continued to watch, and then she said, all of a sudden, just out of the clear blue sky, she started rolling. She said, "Oh, oh, oh," and rolling on the floor. And Wendy said, "Oh my God, she's having another attack. She needs to go to the emergency room. Could you possibly take us there?" And I said, well, yes, I'll do that." And so we all got down and got in the car, and the thin girl sat in the, is her name Elizabeth? I think someone told me it was the thin girl, and and Wendy, the heavier set girl, she got in the back seat, and we went down Rock Road to the highway and started going on the highway and turned to go to, and it was towards Andover. And I know there's 2 stoplights. Was one, and then the second you turn and go down the street to go in Andover. And when we got to the first one, I started to go, and she said, "No, turn here." And I said, "That's a country road." And they said, "Yeah, it's a shortcut because her insurance won't be accepted at the other place, and it will at this other place that we're going to." I said, "Okay." So we started going down the country road, and went and went and went and rode and rode. And I said, "Where is this place? We've passed Andover." And she said, "Don't worry, it's down the road more." And I went down and went down, and finally I just stopped the car, and I said, "I want to know where we're going, because we've been on this road a long, long time, and we should be there." And all of a sudden, that Wendy held her purse up, and she said, "See this purse?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "I have a gun in it, and I will use it." And then I said, she jumped out of the car and yanked my driver's side door open. And I also had my daughter's dog, because she was in the car, little Chloe, because I was babysitting, because my daughter went on a cruise. And so I was babysitting her dog. And she grabbed my hand by the door, which would have been my left hand, and she started pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And she had long fingernails, and they cut into my skin all the way down. I ended up having blood running. I had blood running clear down my arm. And the other girl was the thin girl that lived in the apartment. She was pushing me from the back, and Wendy was pulling my arm and yanking me, and I was trying to hang on with my right hand to the steering wheel and stay in the car. And they said, "Get out of the car and give me your purse and your car." And I said, "No, that car belongs to me, and so does my purse." And she pulled me out, and my whole arm was blood. It was all bloody. And when they threw me in the dirt, when I stood up, I had blood all down my arm, and the dirt was stuck all over the whole entire arm. And I finally they zoomed off in the car, and I didn't know, and I was yelling when they were driving off, and I said, "Where is Chloe? Where is Chloe?" And they were already gone. They didn't care. I didn't know if they took Chloe or if Chloe was out of the car. I walked around. I couldn't find her. I finally started walking down the road, and I went to a farmhouse that I came to and knocked on the door. They were not home. So I walked back out in the road, and I walked on down quite a ways to another farmhouse. I went to the door and knocked on the door, and the man answered, and I said, "I need to call the police. I was just thrown out in the dirt in my own car, and they took off with my purse and my car." And I said, "I need to have the police." He said, "Oh my goodness, I'll call right away." And so they called, the man called the police, and I sat on the front porch, and then here come the fire truck. And they wanted to know if I went to, and the policeman and the sheriff, and they all came in the driveway of the farmhouse where I stopped at. And I said, no, I didn't need to go to no hospital. Finally, the fire truck left, except they treated my arm. They washed it all down and put medicine on it and put bandage on. No, wait a minute. They washed it all down and they put medicine on it. I don't remember whether they put some bandage on the bad part of just a Band-Aid on a couple of them, but the others were they were basically clear. And
Okay, Ms. Zielke, I'm going to go ahead and stop you right there. I'm going to see if the attorney has any other specific questions for you. Ms. Norris, do you have a question to ask her?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Zilke, when you say country road, do you mean gravel road?
Well, it was out in the country.
Paved?
It was out in the country. It was not paved because I had dirt all over my whole arms when I stood up because my whole arm was bloody. The blood was coming out of all down my whole entire arm.
Okay. And the person that's and real quick, I'll ask this question first. When you're looking at your screen right now, do you see just me or do you see multiple people?
I see multiple people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people.
Okay. Now,
6,
Ms. Zilke,
7.
do you see the person that you identified as the heavier set girl that I think you've been referring to as Wendy on the screen?
Yes, I see one Negro girl, and that's her.
So that presents to me.
Okay, so do you see the person that you've been referring to as the bigger girl and Wendy when you were talking?
Yeah, yes.
All
Can
right,
you
Ms.
say
Ms.
what color she's wearing and maybe what the title in the corner of the box is?
But she's wearing orange.
Okay.
An orange.
And Your Honor, would ask that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Wendy Scott.
The record so reflects. Ms. Scott, hold your commentary.
And Ms. Zilke, how old are you, or how old were you in July?
86 years old.
Okay. And what kind of car?
I had a brand new car. It was a brand new Altima Nissan. So it's this year's.
Okay, so a 2024 Nissan Altima.
Yes.
And do you recall what you paid for it?
Well, I don't remember. I used my other car as a trade-in, and it was quite a few $1,000s.
Do you recall if it was over $25,000?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. If there's someone with Ms. Zielke, I'm going to caution them. They are not to help her or to assist her in any way by providing any information to her. She needs to testify on her own today. So I'm going to make sure that there's no one else who's testifying other than Beverly Zuk. So re-ask your question, Ms. Norris.
Ms. Zuk, was the car, did you purchase it this year?
Oh, yeah. It's brand new.
And so did you pay more than
I haven't even had it a year yet.
And did you pay more than $25,000 for that car?
You know what? I can't remember. Honest to God, I can't remember. I paid, I know
Don't be looking to anyone else to answer, Beverly.
they gave me there's no one in no one in here but me.
Okay.
They gave me a $14,000 trade-in, and I paid the rest cash.
And do you recall if the amount that you paid in cash?
I do not. I could get that information if I go out to the Nissan dealership, but I don't remember what I paid.
That's all right. That's all right. Now, Ms. Zuk, when this is going on, were you in fear for your safety?
Well, yeah, when they stopped and jumped and pulling my arms and shoved me out in the dirt and zoomed off in my car, definitely. I was terrified. I didn't know what was going on.
Anything else that Wendy said to you about the gun, or if she was going to use the gun?
She said, I've used this before and I will use it again.
And Ms. Zuk, based on how you were explaining it, you did not give them any permission to take your car or your purse or your daughter's dog.
Definitely not. They threw me on the ground and just took it. I could not believe it. I was hanging onto the steering wheel with everything, trying to stay in the car. And the other girl was shoving me from the back, and Wendy was pulling my arm from the other. She was standing with the driver's door open, pulling my arm. And I was trying so hard to stay in the car. And they said they were going to take it. And I said, no, this belongs to me. No, you cannot have my purse. Because I said, give me your purse. She said, give me your purse. Give it to me now. And I said, no, it belongs to me.
Okay, next question, Ms. Norris.
Thank you, Ms. Zuk. I don't think that I have any other questions. But Mr. Watts, the defense attorneys may have some follow-up questions, okay?
All right.
Thanks.
Mr. Watts, do you have any questions for Ms. Zuk?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Zuk, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that basically some persons came to your door, correct?
What did you say?
You said that some persons came to your door?
Some persons?
That day?
Wendy came to my door first.
Okay, let's talk
Which I was shocked because she wasn't with that the other girl that lives there, and she said, "Do you mind if I come in and wait for her?"
Ma'am,
And I said, "Well,
ma'am, hold a moment. You mentioned you've used that name Wendy several times. How and when did you learn that this person's name was Wendy?
Because today I learned it.
Okay.
I didn't know it before, but I learned it today when we were calling in and stuff, trying to set everything up to get on the TV the internet with you.
Okay. Now, Wendy was there. The person you describe as Wendy, you name as Wendy, was there. There was another person there, correct?
Yes, that was her good friend who
Okay.
lived on the same floor as I did, but she lived down further down the hall from me. And
Okay.
I
Ma'am?
know her last
Thank you.
name is Rogers because they told us that, but I don't remember what they said her first name was.
Okay. Who told you that?
Well, when I talked to the sheriff,
Okay. So the sheriff told you her name was Rogers.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. You said this is a person that lived on the same floor with you?
Yet she lived on the same floor, but way down the hall from where I lived.
Okay. Was she a person you were familiar with?
I had recently just talked to her. I didn't really know her, but I had talked to her because she was sitting in her car crying,
Okay.
and
Is this a person you knew by name?
no,
Okay.
I had no idea what her name was. I'd never met her before, never talked to her before.
Well, I'm talking about the lady that's there on your floor. I think it's been described as the thin person. Did you know her by name?
Well, that I understand her name is Rogers, her last name.
Well,
That
I
was the
understand,
thin girl.
ma'am, I understand that's what you've been told her name is. Did you know her name that day?
No, not until I was not until I was told.
Okay.
And I didn't really know her and I forgot her name because really
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
didn't really know her.
So this person you called Wendy came to your door and asked to step in and wait for the other person. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
which shocked me
Time would-
because
Ma'am, what time would this have been?
I don't recall what time.
Was it
Uh,
early afternoon, late afternoon?
I would say it was early afternoon.
Okay. And you testified on direct that basically this person you've called Wendy came in and waited on the other person and the other person followed shortly after. Is that right?
Yes, yes, that's true.
Now, this other person, if I understood your testimony correctly, went into a back room to look at some cookbooks. Is that correct?
That girl that has the name Rogers, she went into the back room to look at cookbooks.
Okay, so you went to the back room to look at cookbooks. How long was she back there?
I really don't recall, maybe 15 minutes, because that Wendy sat in my living room and I sat there and we talked back and forth and then Wendy said, wonder what's taking her so long. I'm going to go back and check out and see what's happening. And she went back in that room. And I
stop you for a moment there, ma'am. When you went back in the room, did you go back or did Wendy go back?
She went back there
Okay, so
alone.
Wendy went back there. Did you go with her?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now you testified on direct that when you went to the back room or someone went to the back room, the door was locked. Is that correct?
Okay. Then they didn't come right back. And I thought, well, what are they doing? So I got up and walked back down the hall and I put my hand on the doorknob and it was locked. And I turned it again and it was unlocked.
Okay.
And so I went in and the thin girl was, I think Rogers, and she was on the floor looking through a cookbook, and Wendy was standing just looking down, and they were talking about a recipe, and that's all it was.
Okay. Would you describe this thin girl for me? How tall was she?
Well, she had her hair in those long kind of braids all over her whole head, those big long braids.
Okay. Was she taller than you or shorter than you?
She's a very petite, small girl.
Okay. Black or white?
What?
Black girl or white girl?
Oh, they were both black girls.
Okay. Was she heavy set or well, she said she was petite, so
She's
thin?
very petite and small, thin.
Was she taller than you or shorter than you?
Well, I don't know. I never really thought about it. She's just a small frame girl.
Okay.
She's very petite and small.
Okay.
She's,
Now-
I would say she was, I wouldn't be, I can't say because I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I would be guessing.
Okay. Now, you testified that the thin girl, this person you've named as Rogers, acted like she was injured or hurting. Correct?
Yes, all of a sudden she started laid back and started moaning, and then she rolled back and forth. Oh, my stomach.
Okay.
Oh.
Now-
And Wendy said, oh my, we need to get her to the emergency room. Could you please
Okay.
take us to the emergency room?
Okay. And about what time would you have left? Do you know?
I have no idea. I don't recall that. Honestly, I don't. But we left
You
right
indicated
away.
that- Ma'am, just wait for me to ask a question, please. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You indicated that basically it took you out of the country claiming that they were going to a hospital, correct?
Yes. Oh, definitely. We were
All right.
taking her to an emergency room.
Ma'am?
So I thought, and I was
Okay,
told.
ma'am, thank you. Now, and you indicated these people then threw you out of your car and left you, correct?
They sure did.
Okay. I want to hit or talk about the next time you saw either one of those persons.
I've never seen him
Okay.
since that incident happened.
Let me ask you that. This person that you're now calling Wendy here today, when is from that day, the day that you were thrown out of your car, when is the next time you saw her?
Right now on the picture on TV, it's the first time that I've seen her, and I see her on TV this minute.
Okay, so the next time you saw her was today at this hearing on the computer
That
screen.
is
that
correct.
right?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Did you ever at any point see her or identify her to law enforcement prior to today?
I have not seen her. I have not seen her. I have not seen a picture of her. I haven't anything of her. There's never been a contact
Okay.
since that incident.
And as you sit here today, this person you've identified as Wendy is sitting in jail orange, isn't she?
Yes.
Okay. And she's in a screen identified as Butler County Jail, correct?
I didn't know where she was at. I have never been told.
Well, is
So
the
I can't-
screen, ma'am, is the screen that she is on their computer screen, does it say Butler County Jail on it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, the other person, this thin, petite person, since the day this happened, have you seen her at
Objection,
all?
Your Honor, relevance to this
No.
particular prelim.
Mr. Watts?
Wait, Ms. Zilke.
I think it goes to the reliability of the identifications in this case.
Wait, Ms.
Re-ask the
Zilke.
question, Mr. Watts.
Go ahead.
Since the day this incident happened, have you seen the other person involved, this thin, petite girl?
No, I have not.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm clear. At no point did law enforcement approach you with any photographs of any people to ask you to identify anyone? Is that correct?
That is correct. Never have they done that. Ever.
They never brought a person by your house or your residence to see if you could identify them?
No, they did not.
Your Honor, I don't think I have any other questions today. Thank you.
The court will allow the amendment to count 1 to reflect a charge of aggravated kidnapping as requested, as well as the amendment to count 5, upgrading from misdemeanor theft to felony theft. Court finding that there is evidence in the record to support such amendment. Court further finds that based on the evidence presented, that the felony crime of aggravated kidnapping has been committed and that the defendant, Wendy Scott, committed it. Regarding count 2, the court does find that there's probable cause that the crime of mistreatment of a dependent elder person, a level 5 person felony, has been committed and that the defendant, Wendy Scott, committed it. Regarding count 3, the court does find that there's probable cause that the felony crime of criminal threat has been committed and that the defendant, Wendy Scott, committed it. Regarding count 4, the court does find that there's probable cause that the felony crime of aggravated robbery has been committed and that the defendant, Wendy Scott, committed it. Regarding count 5, the court does find that there's probable cause from this hearing that the crime of felony theft has been committed and that the defendant, Wendy Scott, committed it. And regarding count 6, the court does find probable cause that the felony crime of interference with law enforcement, a level 9 non-person felony, has been committed and that the defendant, Wendy Scott, has committed it. Therefore, the court binds the defendant over on all 6 counts as amended following a presentation of evidence. We will proceed to arraignment at this time. Mr. Watts, does your client desire the charging document to be read to her?
Your Honor, we discussed the charges. Excuse me. Would waive formal reading of same and are not guilty at this time. Ask the case be set for appropriate pretrial and jury trial settings.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Watts. The court will set this case for both jury trial and pretrial conference settings.
And Your Honor, the defendant has her hand up. I'm not sure if she needs to address the court or her counsel.
Okay, well, we're going to do our scheduling first, then I'll address her. Mandy, if you could suggest our February trial date for Butler. Oh, God, my daughter is going to die. Oh, she's going to die. I just want to see my baby. Can I please
Andy?
talk?
Judge,
Just a moment, Ms. Scott. Let me finish my scheduling here.
Okay, it'll be February 25th for the jury trial date.
And can you suggest a pretrial conference date the week before?
Okay. Friday. I'm sorry, I didn't look at the date. Friday, February 21st at 9 or 10 a.m.
We'll make this 9 o'clock a.m. Court will establish pretrial conference as the next scheduled setting at this time for February 21, 2025, 9 o'clock a.m. That will be conducted by Zoom. The court will establish jury trial date, currently set to begin 9:00 a.m. on February 25, 2025. That will be an in-person proceeding, courtroom B, Butler County Judicial Center, El Dorado, Kansas, for all stages if it goes. So February 21, 9:00 for pretrial conference by Zoom. Jury trial set to begin February 25, 2025. All right. Ms. Scott, I'll address you now.
Yes, sir. All I'm asking, my baby is dying. That's it. I wrote a letter to the courts and to my lawyer letting them know that she's dying. All I'm asking is for a fella to speak with my baby. That's it. She might not make it to February. She might not make it 8 years from now, but my baby is dying. That's all I'm asking. She got Thursday cancer, sir. That's all I'm asking. Can I just see her?
Okay, who is your baby?
My daughter, Kanai Scott Collins. I wrote the court's input, her room number, what hospital she's in, and everything. I've been writing, asking. I just want to see my daughter. She got brain cancer. That's it. I've been begging and pleading. She's in Wesley. She's in Children's Mercy. She's in the PIC unit. You can call and verify it. I've been asking here just to call and talk to her at the nurse's station. I'm not even getting that. I don't even have money on my books because they won't let me work. I just want to see my baby. That's it. That's it. Just see my daughter. I'm asking you, Judge, whatever you want me to do. I'm not running none of that. You can put a monitor and everything. I just want to see my baby. She might not be there. She might not be able to see me 2 days from now. I'm just asking. Please, just hear me out.
Children's Mercy, where? Where's that at?
She's on Wesley, Maine, the Children's Mercy. She's on the PIC unit floor. She's in the pediatric ICU. You can verify it.
Okay, so I'm having difficulty because of your emotional speaking here, but I think
My
you're talking
daughter,
about Wesley Medical Center in Wichita?
Yes, sir. She's on the PIC unit. She's in Children's Mercy. Dr. Shaw is her doctor.
Okay.
My baby is suffering. All I want to do is see her. That's it. Whatever else I want to do. If she died in my arms when she see me, then that's it. That's all I want to see is my baby. That's it, sir.
Does the state take a position on the request?
Please, please.
Your Honor, I don't, this is the first I've heard of it. I suppose without any verification, I would have concerns about that. I know her bond is currently set at 100,000 with GPS required, and that she's only to be in Butler or Sedgwick County. Obviously, Your Honor, I have concerns about her being out. She's got a lot of history out of the state of Iowa. She is presumptive. She's at least a C, maybe a B. It kind of depends on how some of her previous convictions shake out, but she's definitely a C. And based on these charges, she's presumptive prison.
I
So
swear, I just want to
certainly
see
have
my
concerns.
baby. I just want to see. I wrote the courts and everything weeks ago. I just want to see her.
Right.
That's it.
The court will first of all make an observation. It seems to be kind of a disturbing tendency out of the women's cell at the Butler County Jail for them to write letters to this court asking for all kinds of things. Ms. Scott, apparently you are one of those that's bought into that. You're not supposed to be even trying to communicate in writing behind the prosecutor's back the way you've been doing.
I did. They told when I went to. I asked the person at the jail that's above in the jail.
And so when you attempt to communicate with the court, do you also send it to the prosecutor so that she knows what you're doing?
Okay.
I would suspect you don't.
I did, and they told me to write straight to the judge and to my lawyer.
All right. Well, all right. Regardless of how any attempted communication may have been sent to my office, Ms. Scott, the court is considering here that you are facing presumptive prison felonies. You've now been bound over on
I
those.
promise you, I'm not.
And I don't mean to be heartless or cruel. I don't know if what you're telling the court is legitimate or not.
My lawyer, I even gave my lawyer phone numbers and everything to verify. I gave him everything to verify.
You're a poor risk for a furlough, Ms. Scott. I don't want to be in a situation where you're released from the jail and we have to recapture you.
You won't
get
have
you
to
back.
do it. You won't. I just
There
wanna
are
see somebody-
implications to criminal behavior, and you've been bound over on these felonies. The court has found probable cause that you committed these
Lord, can
crimes.
you please?
You haven't been convicted yet. The court clearly recognizes that. But again, there are implications to criminal behavior, Ms. Scott, and
I know,
unfortunately,
I'm so sorry.
access to your family can be one of them. The
And
court is not going to
I'm the only
modify your
family
bond in
member
any way,
here.
and the court is not going to grant your furlough request.
Can
So
I
the
please
request
get
is
rid of my
denied.
bond?
The court has already considered and denied any bond relief. All right.
So if my daughter dies, I can't see her then either. I just want to see her. That's it.
All
That's
right.
all I was
Mr. Watts, anything further from your perspective at this time?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
From the state's perspective, Ms. Norris?
Miss Norris, please.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. The Scott matter will currently be in recess.